And this is Bernard Conlon, our man of Europe. Well, we're all men of Europe, but some of us realise and recognise that more than others, Bernard.
I guess so, Rowan. Europe is, for a lot of people, it's something over there, but there's things happening over there
Absolutely.
which affect us over here. So
I used to think when I heard people, newsreaders and those who script the news saying, and now we go to Europe. You know, it's so we're long enough in it to know that we're part of it.
Well, of course, in terms of Europe, school's back in Europe. Like, school is back all over for school children and people going back to university, just like parliamentary and institutional sessions, they're back after the summer recess. And there's a new European Commission lined up to take over in November the 1st, but they're currently being vetted by members of the European Parliament, and that's supposed to be finished.
And could those members of the Parliament turn them down? We don't want you.
Technically they could. Technically that is possible, but it's probably unlikely. There's two commissioners that are particularly relevant to Britain and Ireland. There's the Irish Commissioner and there's the British Commissioner. Lord Jonathan Hill is the British nominee to the European Commission. He actually went in front of the hearings in the European Parliament this week and actually has not been ratified yet.
Wow.
And has to do a resit. He has to come back next week.
Could that have something to do with the enthusiasm of the British Prime Minister to get us all out of Europe?
Yes and no. The new president of the European Commission is the former
Juncker.
Prime Minister of Juncker. You've picked up something.
Oh, sure, they hate it.
Yes,
Cameron hates the wrong word.
You could say
he wasn't going to Cameron's dinner table.
Well, Cameron has been accused of having perhaps a Juncker mentality, but we'll move on from that. Juncker actually deliberately nominated Lord Jonathan Hill because he is somebody who was quite involved with the City of London.
Yes.
And he's actually, ironically, been given a role in Juncker's Commission Cabinet College, responsible for financial services and banking. So that was quite bending backwards by Juncker.
Absolutely.
And I suppose a gesture of goodwill to Cameron.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely. Hoping, come with us, don't fight with us.
Right.
You're better in the tent looking out than outside the tent looking in.
Something like that.
Something like that,
yeah.
indeed. Now, these are ordinary enough politicians who are there on the Commission, but they must have specific areas of very substantial expertise in order to deliver.
Well, commissioners are a mixed bag. A lot of them, particularly in this current commission that Juncker has selected, there's a fair number of ex-prime ministers there. But they're not all ex-prime ministers. Some of them are career politicians. A few of them are career diplomats, or some of them are former members of the European Parliament. So it's a mixed bag, but there are a lot of them that are actually former prime ministers.
Yeah.
But Juncker actually described his selection as a more political rather than a technocratic commission.
I can understand that because he has more expertise, one supposes, in politics than he does in the technocratic area, so he's playing to his strength.
Well, if you're a politician and you become a commissioner, you're surrounded by bright young things and not so young things. There's plenty of economists and lawyers, officials, commission officials who actually are there to support and advise and write the detail.
Yeah. To what extent do you think Europe is top heavy with bureaucracy? It's often said it's all bureaucracy. Now, out of that bureaucracy has come the roads infrastructure of the Republic of Ireland, for example, and all the projects that we get here, for example. But is it top heavy from your experience?
It's the language, the processes are certainly technocratic and abstract. I think it's difficult to convey a sense of what goes on to Europe very easily in simple terms. As I say, the hearings are going on in the European Parliament this week. How many ordinary citizens in a British, Irish, French or Dutch context are actually listening to the hearings in the European Parliament?
I doubt
Very
it.
few.
They want to see what comes out at the end of the tunnel, and, and that's it.
Yeah.
We're not the first Europeans. My mind takes me back, with your encouragement, to the flight of the Earls and the
Absolutely.
O'Neill,
Absolutely.
who headed off there.
Yes.
But wasn't it an extraordinary enough thing that in those years long ago, those middle-aged times, wasn't it an extraordinary thing that someone in Ireland would say, I'm going to France, I'm heading out?
Well, basically the Irish have had a huge historic connection with Europe. We sometimes think when the Republic and Britain joined the European Union in 1973, this was our first connection with Europe. O'Neill and O'Donnell from the Earls of Ulster, they took flight to Europe in the early 17th century, I think around about 1607, I might be wrong on that. But they ended up first of all in Leuven in Belgium, which is just down the road from Brussels. And they stayed in the Irish College there for about 6 months.
We had an Irish college there.
We still have.
Oh, but
yes.
amazing! In the 16th century, we had an Irish college.
Absolutely,
there.
there was a whole network of Irish colleges on mainland Europe in the 17th century and the 16th century.
But you're not a bit of wonder they got the network of roads down there with that sort of provenance.
They were lobbying at that stage.
At that stage, even we have a film, haven't we? We have a lovely film of the flight of the Earls and the O'Neill influence in Europe.
Well,
yes?
to emphasise the European connection, a friend of mine recorded a song with, I give him a little bit of help in terms of the locations, about the said O'Neill that went to Europe at that stage. So at some point we might watch
we'll do it now.
some of the locations.
Roll it now, Andrew.
See how the cold wind blows, blows out on the tide. See how the cold wind blows, the door cannot be closed. The door cannot be closed. They pull the anchor slow, the moon twists the tide. Sun will never come, the harp cannot be plied, the harp cannot be plied. Your master at the fort, you killed them in the pines, with gallows, glass and curse.
Wow, well done. Thank you very much. That's lovely.
Yeah.
It's kind of an underpinning of loss as they moved out to Europe, but there's no underpinning of loss these days. We're there, vibrant in the middle of it. The Irish are making a better job of it, perhaps, than, say, the British, because we're not whinging down there in the Republic. Cameron is.
I don't know if it can be seen just as black and white as that. The interesting thing is the Irish nominee for the Commission was passed yesterday. He was actually voted, given the green lights straight away by the members of the European Parliament yesterday. Phil Hogan, former Environment Minister in the South, he's safely ensconced now in the Commission. There's been a lot of historic connection between Ireland and Europe. So, and Ireland and North America and Ireland and Britain, of course.
It's the great diaspora,
Absolutely.
as they say. Now, is it ever likely, bearing in mind they're not stupid in Europe, and they know what's in Cameron's mind. They know the British aren't necessarily their friend, and that it's no longer de Gaulle saying no. It's the British saying it, and they'd be out in the blink of an eye if they could. Is it possible in those circumstances that Britain will ever again get the presidency?
Oh, but in terms of the presidency of the Council of Ministers, it has changed a little bit in that there's a permanent president of the European Council of Ministers now. There's a permanent post, but there's also a rotating 6-month presidency, and
so every country's going to get it.
That every country gets that in terms of its turn, but the full-time president of the Council of Ministers now is the ex-Polish Prime Minister who took up that, who was selected for that post just about a month ago, or within the last month or two.
Bernard, your life has rotated you away from Europe.
Yes and
no. Do you
no.
look back lovingly, and do you want to be back there? How much do you miss it?
Yes and no. Obviously, I was there for a long time. I worked as a journalist in Brussels, and I did commission contracts. I was also involved in cultural activity in Brussels. So Brussels very much became my life for a long, long time. I often say to people, I went to Brussels to escape Belfast, and I came back to Belfast to escape Brussels. But never say never. I'm obviously still, at your request, I'm still peering into the deep well of Europe.
Absolutely. That's a lovely way to describe it, the deep well of Europe, because deep wells are an oasis of plenitude. And Europe is there. If we all play our part, if we're all involved, all are truly European. Do you feel yourself European?
I certainly have a European dimension. I actually am very interested in what goes on in Europe. Gorbachev described Europe, he referred to our common European home. And I think Gorbachev did have a particular vision and perspective on Europe, but not one that's really been realised. I think a lot of the integration has been too rapid. There has been a little bit fast tracking of a bringing together, and that hasn't allowed the ordinary citizen to actually digest and process what Europe is. But yes, I do have a European identity, but whether it's absolutely linked or determined by what goes on in the European institutions, the jury's out on that. I'll maintain my diplomatic silence.
You'll come to me next week again, will you?
I absolutely will.
You'll bring someone who you'll interview yourself, and you're most welcome.
Well, you know, Rowan, we've established a kind of rotation of selecting people who have something to say. We had David McDonnell last week from an organisation that was based in Dundalk, and he explained a lot of things that are going on the ground here. So Europe is many things. It's not just one. And your illustration talking about the Flight of the Earls alluded to the historical.
Well, it's about getting the right people in. I certainly got the right person in today. God bless you.
Okay,
Rowan,
Rowan,
take care.
Been a great pleasure.
Good to see you.